back to Wine Hour Books with your girl Kay. So by the title, you can see that we are reviewing Then She Was Gone. JD requested this video, so here you go. It's been a long time coming. I know. But anyway, so you know I have my notes right here. So Then She Was Gone is broken up into 5 parts. So the first part is basically like introducing Laurel, which is one of the main characters, right? So Laurel is Ellie Mack's mom. So Ellie Mack is a 15-year-old girl. She went missing on her way to the library. She's been missing for about 10 years now. She was last seen looking at her reflection in a car mirror, right? So Laurel is trying to piece her life back together for the most part. You know, she was distraught when her daughter Ellie went missing. So honestly speaking, Ellie was her favorite child. Ellie has a brother and older sister, but for some reason, once Ellie went missing, the mother started neglecting the family. The family fell apart. You know, the husband is very nice, but he's very like timid, laid back. So he ends up leaving the home. The daughter and the son ends up getting older, but you know, for some reason, the mother started taking care of the household, and they grew up to resent the mom. They barely speak to her, and they already knew, like, you know, the mom felt like it should have been one of them who went missing instead of Ellie, right? So what's going on? So Ellie was having difficulty with mathematics, right? So she's a very smart girl, but she's having difficulty. So one day she asked her mom, like, yo, mom, can you hire me a tutor? At first the mom was like, you know, no, we can't afford the tutor right now. But eventually the mom made it work and hired a tutor named Mrs. Noel, right? I forgot her name, her whole name. So Mrs. Noel comes to the home, starts teaching Ellie mathematics. At first, you know, Ellie thinks that she's weird, but, you know, she starts growing on Ellie. Then all of a sudden, Miss Noel would come and she would have these mood swings that would turn Ellie off and scare her. So one day, Ellie went to her mom, and one second. All right, yeah. So she went to her mom, was like, yo, mom, I want to end the tutoring. She never told the mom the real reason why she wanted to end the tutoring. What she told her mom was that, you know, I've gotten everything I needed out of the tutoring sessions. I don't need it anymore. You know, my exam is coming up. I'm going to be fine, this, that, and the third. So Ellie, at this time, also is in love with a boy named Thomas. You know, they finally got together. That's her dream dude. You know, they living it up, young teenage love, right? So what happened after? So Noel, now once the mom calls Noel and tells Noel that, yo, you know, Ellie doesn't want to continue the sessions, Noel gets upset. Now sis is real mad. I'm just like, yo, chill out. Are you mad? So I'm thinking, I can understand, you know, it was short notice, you know, she canceled, now you don't have no funds, I can understand that, but she was like too upset. So that, for me, that was a red flag, right? But I was wondering when I was reading the book, like, why they bringing up the tutor? I'm like, they wouldn't bring the tutor up for no reason. But I'm like, all right, you know, I could be wrong. So as Ellie now, it's like a week before her exam, Ellie tells her mom, like, yo, she's going to the library to study for exam, right? So, lo and behold, Noel now decides that she's going to low-key stalk Ellie. So she sees Ellie. She's been hoping to see Ellie since the tutoring sessions got canceled. You know, when she first seen Ellie, like, she thought Ellie was, like, perfect. Like, she instantly became infatuated with Ellie, right? So she approaches Ellie while Ellie is walking. Sorry guys, I'm trying to get the timeline. I got too much books in my head. So she approached Ellie at the library because she knew Ellie goes to the library, right? So she told Ellie, like, hey, it's nice to see you. Ellie, at first glance, Ellie just looks up at her and didn't recognize her at first, but then she realized, like, this is Noel. So Noel is super mad that Ellie doesn't recognize her immediately. So she tells Ellie, like, hey, I have a worksheet for you that you can use for your exam. I live right up the block. Come get it. So Ellie's like hesitant, but then she just goes because she's trying to get it over it, right? So now, pause. Alright, so now they go to Noel's house. They go inside the house, right? No one sees her go into the house. No one sees her walking with Noel, right? There is no CCTV footage of her going in that direction, right? So she goes in and no one sees her going with Noel. So now, it's been 10 years, right? Like I said. So after 10 years, the police contacts the mom and contacts the dad. And they like, we have some updates in the case. So now the mom and dad, they get to the police station. They find some of Ellie's belongings, which is her backpack, pens, notebooks, all that extra stuff, right? Then later on, they found some bone fragments for her, and it was determined by the coroner that Ellie was hit by a car and dragged. So what the news was saying was that Ellie ran away from home because that's what it looked like. It didn't look like she was kidnapped. But everybody know, like, why would Ellie run away? That she didn't take her passport, but she took her sister's passport and stuff like that. So they like, the mom couldn't believe it. But after some years, the mom like, maybe she did run away, but there would be no reason for her to run away, you know? And then you're going to leave the boy that you just hooked up with, the boy with dreams. It wasn't making any sense. So after that, the mom and the parents and family got closure. 1 month, they had a funeral for Ellie to bury her, to put that to rest, right? 1 month after Ellie's funeral, Laurel, the mom, ends up meeting Floyd in a coffee shop, right? So Floyd is deemed to be this handsome gentleman, you know, well put together. The mother is infatuated by him. She's so cute. So Floyd ends up coming over to sit by Laurel in a cafe. They talking. They end up going to dinner. And you know, Laurel mentions that she has kids, but she doesn't mention that she has a kid that was recently found dead. And Floyd mentioned like he has a daughter. He has two daughters. One is named Sarah Jade, and the other one is named Poppy. So Laurel's other kids is Hannah, and I believe it's Jake, right? So Floyd ends up telling Laurel that, you know, Poppy's mother vanished when she was 4 years old. He doesn't really go into any details, but he's a little weird. Like, he was just giving me bad vibes. Like, out of all the seats in the empty-ass cafe, you gonna choose the one that's right next to the sis? I mean, come on. He was giving no bad vibes like Noel. It was just, my senses was tinged, right? So they go on the second date, right? And on the second date, Laurel ends up going back to Floyd's house. They chilling, whatever. They have sex. The next morning, she ends up meeting Poppy. Now, Poppy, she's taken back because she thinks she's looking at a ghost. So Poppy looks exactly like Ellie Mack, like the split in image, her twin. And Laurel's just like, you know, maybe it's all in my head because when she first went missing, you know, I thought everybody looked like my daughter, right? So she's just taken back, but she's not thinking about anything. So Poppy seemed to be very, like, she's young. At this time, she's about eight or 9, but she carries herself like a grown woman. She dresses like a teenager. She speaks very, very good. She's homeschooled. Like, it's like her father they have a weird type of relationship. Like, she needs her father's permission to do or say certain things. The father lets her talk whatever. She's very nosy. She's just like, things that she was saying and she's not supposed to be speaking of to adults in that way. And I'm just like, yo, like, chill out. So Laurel is also bent on putting her family back together. Like, she realized that her mistakes when Ellie went missing, that she wasn't the mom that she needed to be for them, and she wants forgiveness for her children. She wants to build a relationship with them. So she's trying. So she goes over to her oldest daughter Hannah's house every week. Hannah pays about $30, well, 30 pounds to clean her home. You know, Hannah is very reluctant to communicate with Laurel. She's just like, you know, whatever. Like, she gives her mother attitude, whereas the fathers, they have kind of relationship. And it's weird that, you know, Laurel's trying now, but sometimes, you know, when you hurt your children, you got to give them time. And she's just like, you know, I want that relationship, but Hannah's just like, nah. Right? So Poppy again, once she meets Laurel again, you know, she starts questioning Laurel about like her marriage and why her marriage ended and how many kids and how's her kids. She likes investigating stuff like that. Like I told you, like she was asking questions like a little girl should be asking. So Laurel in some way feels connected to Poppy. She can't put her hands in it. But she also gets a sense that there's something not right with the relationship between Poppy and Floyd. But you know, again, she's happy. She's met a man. This is the happiest she's been in a while. She thinks that he's good for her. Like they communicate. Like so, sis is trying to live her best life, right? So down the line, you know, Poppy takes a liking to Laurel. So Laurel invites Poppy to go shopping, right? During the shopping, because Laurel feels like Poppy should dress like a kid, and she definitely should. And Poppy is also trying to figure out like what's going on, like what she like, what she don't like, because Poppy's a little weird. She basically like, you know, she basically stated like I don't like people there's a means to it, and like we just all meant to die. Like she's that type of kid, right? She's a little weird, right? So Poppy also mentioned that she didn't like her mom, and in the book, Noel is Poppy's mom, right? Floyd divulged that information that Noel is Poppy's mom, right? And Noel was a little crazy. Floyd also tells Laurel that Noel was a fan, and you know it got a little out of hand. They got together. She got pregnant. This, that, and the third. Right? So Poppy also feels like her mom, which is Noel, ended up hating her. So Laurel's trying to put the pieces together like, well, not at this time, she's not really putting the pieces together because she doesn't really remember Noel, right? So she just, it is what it is. And at this time, she also didn't really know Noel's name. It's not until further in the book that she starts putting the pieces together, which I'm gonna go for y'all, right? So, anyways, pause. Let me pause right there. All right. So now it's fast forward a little bit. It's Laurel and Hannah's birthday dinner, right? So the Laurel's ex-husband, like I said, he's cool, whatever. He brings his girlfriend. Poppy's there, Floyd is there, Jake and his girl Blue is there, and then Hannah is there, right? So they all finally meet Poppy. Poppy's like the icebreaker between everybody. She starts asking questions. She's a little weird, and it was just like, you know, what's going on. So everybody finally taking a look at Poppy, and it goes unspoken that, yo, Poppy looks like Ellie Mack. So everybody's like, damn. So it's not just Laura that's seeing that, right? So at the dinner, you know, there's a weird vibe with Floyd and Poppy that people are getting. It's just like, yo, what's going on? So people's not saying nothing, but they like Poppy for the most part, right? The next morning, Laurel's getting ready to leave Floyd's house, and she sees a stack of mail. On the stack of mail, she sees an envelope addressed to Noel. So she's trying to put the piece. This is when she finally get an acquaintance of Noel's name, right? She's like, I know that name. I know that name. I know that name, right? So then she goes back to Floyd's place. She tells Floyd about the name and like knowing the name, and then that's when she finds out that Noel is Poppy's mom, and then she starts remembering that Noel used to tutor Ellie, right? At the same time, Jake's girlfriend Blue, which is Laurel's son, calls Laurel and tells Laurel that, you know, I mean no disrespect or whatever, but I got a bad vibe from Floyd. He's giving up bad energy. I think you should be careful. So Laurel goes off on Blue like, oh, mind your business. Stay out of here. You know, I don't like you. You try to ruin my relationship. That's not a third, right? So she goes off on Blue, and I'm just like, you got to heed the warning. Like, sister's trying to warn you. But Laurel's so head over heels for Floyd that she's not trying to listen, which, I mean, I can understand. Like, we probably all guilty of that, right? Anyways. So now Laurel is talking to Sarah Jade, which is Floyd's oldest daughter, right? So she comes back to Floyd's house, and Sarah Jade is there, and she's crying. So Sarah Jade is having an affair with her art teacher, and Laurel's basically telling like, yo, you know, it's never gonna work. He's never gonna love you. He's never gonna leave you. This, that, and third. After that, Sarah J was like, you know, I want to say something to you. She was like, don't you realize that Poppy looks just like your missing daughter? And then she was getting ready to say something to Laurel again, and that's when Floyd walks in, and they stop talking. So Laurel starts getting an uneasy feeling now. She's like, something's not adding up, but she wants to figure out what's going on. What does Sarah J know? So she ended up going home to read some of Ellie's journal, right? In Ellie's journal, Laurel finally finds out that Ellie did not like Noel. She found out that Noel was being weird. And she calls up Hannah and asks Hannah about the journal and Noel, and Hannah confirms like, yo, Ellie definitely did not like Noel. She was weird. She didn't want to tell you, Mom, but she told me. So now Laurel's taken back like, oh, Ellie, you should tell me everything, right? I'm like, Laurel, put the pieces together, sis. Put the pieces together. So anyways, so Laurel also goes to meet Sarah J at her school. Sarah ends up telling Noel like Sarah ends up telling Laurel that she hated Noel growing up. Noel was very mean. She was rude. And at one point when Noel was changing, she saw that Noel didn't have a stomach. And at this time, Noel was supposed to be pregnant. So Sarah was like, maybe she thought, she just imagined it. But for some reason, that was weird because she's supposed to be like about 7-8 months pregnant, but she has a flat stomach or whatever, right? So now Laurel's putting the pieces together like what's going on? Like, Noel, my daughter, she's supposed to be pregnant, Poppy. She putting the pieces together. So that all happened in part 2. Part 3 now is Noel telling her side of the story. So, all right. So part 1 was Laurel and finding out that Ellie Mae remainings, they're having a funeral. Part 2 is Laurel meeting Floyd and Poppy, this, that, and the third. So now we're in part 3. All right. I don't want this video to be too long, so that's why I'm going a little fast, guys. So anyways, so this part 3 is Noel telling her side of the story. So Noel met Floyd at one of his book signings because he had a book about mathematics, right? So she instantly became obsessed with him. She believed that Floyd was her everything, that they deserved to be together. They started bumping into one another occasionally, which is not really bumping in. Like, Noel was planning them shits. Like, she would plan where he was at and then bump into him. Like, it's crazy. So anyways, he ends up inviting Noel to the house. They end up having sex. She lost her virginity to him. And after they have sex, moving forward, Floyd only cared about sex. He had no emotional connection to Noel. But once Noel gave it up, she was infatuated with him and she wanted more for him that he didn't want to give. So she was just a sex buddy to him, right? So she thought that she could capture his heart. So it was just like, give it up, sis. She was doing more like of a Nikki Parker type of vibe, but a little more extreme, right? During this time, Laurel Googles Noel, and she ends up going to Noel's house going to the house where the old house where Ellie was last seen, right? At Noel's old house, her cousin lives there. So the cousin invites Laurel in the house. Laurel's looking around. It's in the house. It's shown that Noel had a basement, right, with like an old couch and stuff like that, and some dead ass hamsters and cages and all that. At the house, while Laurel's touring the basement and stuff like that, she sees like a lip balm. So something tells Laurel to take the lip balm because it's have like a significant value. She doesn't know why, but she picks up the lip balm without anybody seeing. She goes and she leaves, right? That's that part. So now, after a while, we back to Noel and Floyd. So Noel finds out that she's pregnant with Floyd, but she loses that baby. And Floyd is just like, I don't really want to be with you. Like, you moving too fast. But he's still having sex with her, so he's still leading her on like the fucking boy he is. Right? So then she gets pregnant again. She ends up losing the baby again, but she doesn't tell Floyd this time. She was like, I'm going to just let it be. So the day she found out that she lost the second baby, that was the day she started tutoring with Ellie, and that's when she started becoming obsessed with Ellie, and she also started feeling like she didn't care. She felt like that Floyd didn't care for her, but she still was determined to make it work, right? So now she's starting to devise her plan. So this is when again she started becoming obsessed with Ellie. And she begins buying Ellie gifts. She begins making Ellie her favorite student. She gives Ellie extra time. She starts stalking Ellie. Like she needs Ellie to, like Ellie's approval. Like she needs Ellie. For some reason, she needs Ellie, right? So the day that Ellie went missing, Noel had planned that approach, and she was gonna do what she's gonna do to get Ellie in her crib. So now, pause. So now we are to the part where Laurel decides that, she's going to take Poppy to meet her family, which is Noel and the cousins, because Noel never brought Poppy around the house or whatever, right? Or she never brought Poppy around the family or whatever. It was just her and Poppy until she was 4. The day, Noel's also missing. I should have mentioned that. Noel's also missing. So the day that Noel went missing, she was supposed to take Poppy back to her country, which was Ireland or something like that, and they're supposed to live there, but she ends up going missing, whatever. So now it's a little questionable. At the same time, when after Laurel takes Poppy over to the cousin house or whatever, Laurel sees her daughter Hannah with Ellie's old boyfriend. My bad, his name is not Thomas, it's Theo. So Laurel's like, Hannah's dating Ellie's old boyfriend Theo, and I'm like, yo, Hannah, that's up. Like, that's your little sister old boyfriend. Like, come on. And you gonna do that to her? You know how much your sis loved him. You gonna date her, man? Because at one point when Laura was cleaning Hannah's house, she found some flowers with the letter T on it, but she couldn't pinpoint it. So she had asked Hannah at one point, like, hey, you have a boyfriend? Hannah kept saying no, which is why. Right? So then, after this now, when it's back to the past, right? So when Ellie's inside Noel's house, Noel offers Ellie something to drink. Ellie takes the drink. Next thing you know, she becomes unconscious. So Noel had drugged her and tied her up into the basement. So now Ellie's trying to fight back. She's trying to figure out like why she's there. She fights Noel for a little time, but Noel beats her ass. Noel's about 41, and then Ellie's like, I want to go home. Why do you have me locked up? Like, I want to leave. Noel's like, nah, I need you, this, that, and third, right? So at one point, now some time goes by. Ellie ends up eating some food, but when she wakes up, she knows something is off with her body. 4 to 5 weeks go by. She feels something kicking in her, is determined that she's pregnant. So Ellie's like, I didn't have sex, like, how am I pregnant? Noel's trying to lowball it, like, oh, you got a baby inside you, it's a miracle, this, that, and the third, right? So she tells Floyd about the pregnancy once she knows Ellie can keep the baby, and Floyd is excited, but she's just like, I don't know if this is gonna work. And her getting Ellie pregnant was a way of saying that the baby's going to keep her and Floyd together. But Floyd is like, listen, once the baby's here, like, I think we should go our separate ways. We could co-parent, but, Noel's not trying to hear that. Anyway, so at the 8 months mark, Noel's not excited about the pregnancy no more. She finally realized Floyd really don't want her. He broke it off with her. She was also walking around with a fake pregnancy bump to make it look real for the 8 months or whatever, right? So Ellie ends up giving birth. When Ellie gives birth, the only thing that Noel let her do was name the baby, and she named the baby Poppy, right? After Ellie gives birth now, Ellie starts getting sick. She catches an infection. Noel doesn't take care of her, doesn't take her to a doctor. She just takes care of the baby, stuff like that. And that's when Ellie ends up getting sick and she dies, right? So now, once Ellie dies, she just had put her bones in like some kind of chest drawer, or whatever, and she was just like, I can't do this anymore with Poppy, with the baby, so she wants to drop the baby off, right, at Floyd's. At the same time, Ellie, I just said Ellie died in the basement, so Noel decides that she's gonna make it look like Ellie ran away. So she took Ellie's house keys, broke into the house, took some items, right, staged a break-in, planted everything. She took some of Ellie's bones, ran over the bones, digged it up, and she thought Ellie was going to be found sooner, but unfortunately, she wasn't found sooner. But so she made it look like, a car hit Ellie, and Ellie definitely ran away. So at the same time, Poppy mentions that she hates Ellie. One day, Floyd has suggested that. All right, so this is sorry, pause. My bad, y'all. So we're going back in time. Because it went from the present to past, all that extra stuff. So this is back in time. Poppy hated Noel, right? And she said Noel was mean. She smelled funny, like she locked her in the basement. And every time that Noel would take Poppy over to Floyd, Floyd would notice the change in Poppy and notice that she wasn't happy, right? So Floyd had suggested one day when Noel came to get Poppy that Noel leave Poppy with him, right? So Noel's like, oh no, I want my child. And Floyd's like, you are an unfit mother. We could get social services involved, and this, that, and third, right? So this is when Noel decides that she's gonna tell Floyd everything. So she basically was like, oh, Poppy is not your child. The mother, I didn't make Poppy. The mother of the child is Ellie. I took Ellie. Ellie had Poppy, and I bought $50 worth of sperm off the black market and inserted in Ellie, and that's how it happened. So when Floyd is hearing all this, he starts attempting to beat her ass. Like, he starts choking her out and shit, and I would have did the same thing too. So not only is Poppy not your kid, you trying to raise another kid, but now you find out that, like, the girl is a stalker, the girl is obsessed with you, and she kidnapped somebody, a young girl. So now, that's the past. Now we to the present, right? So Laurel is actually left. Oh, pause, my bad, I forgot this part. The lip balm that Laurel took from Noel's basement, she went home, right? When she went home, she went back into the box that she kept of Ellie's things, and there was a whole lip balm set, and that lip balm matched the set. So she was like, how did that end up in the basement? I'm like, yo, like, it's common sense, like, Noel took your daughter, but she's putting piece to piece together, right? Laurel's in Floyd's house. Floyd went out for something, so Laurel is left in Floyd's home, right? So she goes into his study, and she finds some articles of her and her family sitting on his desk. So when they met, Floyd was like, he never seen her or whatever. He didn't know her story about Ellie, because at one point Laurel tells Floyd what happened to Ellie, him going missing. So he taken back, like, oh, this is the first time he's hearing it. But when she goes into the study and see the articles on his desk, she realized that these articles were dated back 6 months, and this is before the time that they met. So he already knew about Ellie, so why would he lie? So then Laurel ends up calling Jake's girlfriend Blue back, like, yo, why did you have a bad feeling about Floyd? Blue is like, he gives off this energy. It's not safe for you. Be careful, right? So now this is now fast forward a little bit. Laurel, Floyd, Poppy, all of them agreed to go to a Christmas dinner with the family. Things are starting to get back a little good, whatever. So before the Christmas dinner, Floyd asks Laurel to come over to his house. So while Laurel's on the way to his house, she puts the pieces together. At one point, she also found her candlesticks in Floyd's home, right? So she's putting the pieces together. She thinks that Floyd has something to do with Ellie's disappearance, and that Poppy could be her daughter, her granddaughter, and she's just putting pieces together, right? So while she's on the way to Floyd's house, something tells her to text her ex-husband, like, yo, I'm on the way to Floyd's house. If I'm late, please come over to this address, da-da-da-da. She texts Hannah that too, right? So now she's a little scared. So while she pull up to Floyd's house now, she's sitting in the car, and Floyd is looking at her sitting in the car. And Floyd realized, like, yo, she knows something's off. So, and Floyd is watching her, so he's like, damn. So now, she gets out the car, she goes into the house. Floyd hands her a card, right? And he says, I'm going outside to get something, come back. So she reads the card, and on the card it says, I love you. Well, not really I love you, like, I'm sorry, I wish this was the best for you. I have something that belongs to you. I need you to tell you the whole story, and I never meant for this to happen, blah, blah, blah. So he also directs Laurel to go into his study, right? When Laurel goes into the study, Floyd has a video. On the video, Floyd is sitting there, and he's detailing everything that happened. He puts everything out there, like, yo, Noel was obsessed with me. She told me about the Poppy, and I know Poppy's not mine, and the sperm. And when she mentioned that she had a daughter, she had taken a girl named Ellie, that Ellie had the baby. I saw it on the TV, and I put two and two together. And he was just like, this is what happened. Poppy's your granddaughter. Noel killed Ellie. And then he said, at the same night that Noel was disappeared, I killed Noel by accident. I didn't mean to kill her, but she's buried in my backyard, and I need to get this off my chest. He also stated that he told Poppy majority of the truth about what's going on, and she could handle it. And Laurel's just like, what the fuck? So now we over to the next part, right? So Laurel decides that she's gonna raise Poppy. Poppy's like, oh, where's my father? Laurel's like, I don't know. She realizes that, Floyd has disappeared. Laurel also doesn't snitch to the police about what happened, or any of that, right? And I'm just like, yo, why didn't she say anything? And the next part is Floyd talking about how, Noel was obsessed with him, and what he should do, and why he didn't say nothing. And then part of him wanted to be in Poppy's life, but part of him didn't want to be implicated. The reason why he didn't go to the police when Noel decided to tell him the truth was that, one, he killed Noel, and two, he didn't want to be implicated in Ellie's disappearance or conspiracy of what he did with Poppy, so he kept that as a secret. So, Laurel doesn't say anything. At one point, Floyd decides that he's going to take his life, so he shot himself in the head, dead, boom. Poppy asks about what happened to Floyd down the line. Poppy's like, I know the truth, he didn't have to go, I still love him, this, that, and the third. Hannah and the mom gets a good relationship, and at one point in the ending, I think there was like a bookstore, and somebody pulls a book, and in the book, Ellie had wrote a letter detailing that Noel kidnapped her. She had a baby named Poppy. She loved her parents. She didn't run away, and she wanted people to know the truth. And people, the lady who had got the book started crying and stuff. And I'm like, damn, like, all somebody had to do was open that book a long time ago. They would have found out what really happened. And, it was just sad. Like, Ellie didn't deserve any of that. That's why you have to be careful of who you let in your home, but you also don't know people's intentions. You also don't know people's mental stability, so it's hard. But I'm like, Noel did all that. You stole this girl. You took her life. She had a baby. You still didn't get the man. Your ass ended up dead. So, come on. It was a lose-lose situation from the beginning, all for your crazy-ass obsession. I was just like, Ellie did not deserve that. I'm also glad that Laurel somewhat reconnected with her family, and I can't blame her for her reactions. What I can blame her is for how she handled the situation with her other children once Ellie went missing, because it showed the children that you only really cared about Ellie, you didn't care about us, you neglected us. So that was really messed up of her. I can't respect Laurel for that, but she was trying to make it right, but sometimes it's a little too late. Floyd should have told the truth. Hands down, Floyd should have told the truth. Hannah still up for messing with her dead sister's ex-boyfriend. I think that's messed up. You know, and Theo dead ass wrong too. Cause how? Come on, you dead ass wrong. But anyway, we're just gonna leave that one alone. It was a good read. I like the book though. I definitely thought that Floyd had kidnapped Ellie. I really thought that Floyd was the culprit, but it was Noel all along. So I was definitely proven wrong on that note. But I knew Noel had something to do with it because she was a little unstable, and like why they kept mentioning the tutor, right? This old ass tutor you keep mentioning, something wasn't right. But I definitely enjoyed this this suspense book. It was a good read. I just feel bad for Ellie. She didn't deserve none of that. And I hoped her soul was, you know, resting in peace. But how could it? You know, her young life was taken for no reason. But with the next book review, I'm not sure. Be More Careful still hasn't come. I don't know when it's going to come. Amazon keeps saying now it's on back order. So whenever it comes, I'm going to read the book and do a review. But I appreciate you for tuning in, guys. Follow me on Wind Down with Books on Instagram, TikTok. Drop a comment. Let me know if you want me to read a book. I will review it, and I appreciate all the love. And until next time, your girl is out.